Hey. Welcome to Awkwardly Awesome Podcast, episode 62. I'm your host, Jason Freeman. I'm a perseverance coach and professional speaker who ironically has a speech impediment. I specialize in speaking to junior high and high school students about kindness, courage, perseverance, and confidence. Um, Awkwardly Awesome Podcast is all about having great guests on the show and really celebrating their stories and the commonalities in all our stories. How we all have triumphs, yay, and we all have challenges, yay. So anyway, before I dive way deep into the philosophy, if I'm capable of that, let me tell you about our guest. And I'm sorry, oh my gosh, let me decline that spam call and oh my gosh, usually goes smoother than this. Sometimes life you try to be super professional and it doesn't always work. Did you ever notice that? Okay. I'm noticing that right now. Let me tell you. So, let me tell you about my amazing guest. Patricia Brooks is an author, speaker, and expat life coach. At the age of 51, she quit her well-paying corporate project management job in the United States and moved to France. She felt stuck in that career for years. After the death of her father, she developed the strength and conviction to face her fears through lots of inner work and follow her dreams. Now she lives in a small village in the south of France and helps women who want to move abroad overcome their fear and indecision and create and execute on a plan so they can go from feeling stuck in a country that no longer suits them to living and thriving, and when that does. Please help me welcome Patricia. Yay!
Yay! Hello!
Yay!
Hello! How are you, Jason?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Patricia?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
And thanks for being here. How is the weather where you are? Is it like exotic?
It's been colder than normal. We have winters here, but they're typically pretty mild. But for the last week or so, the temperatures in the evening have been at night have been going down into the 30s, high 30s. But it's been chilly and it's been really, really windy. Yesterday, the wind blew open my window, which was shut. So yeah.
So cold and windy. They're two things I don't associate with France at all.
Yeah. I'm in the south of France, so typically typically it's not that cold, but this year I think we're going to have a cold winter.
Oh. So, is it okay with you if we jump right into it?
Let's do it.
When you were a kid, what were your dreams for your life?
Oh my gosh. You're going to make me have to think back. Well, it's hard to remember what my dreams for my life were because I think we get taught what is not what is expected of us, but what having a good life or a happy life would mean and requires.
Mm.
So I wanted to be a corporate I wanted to be a corporate executive because my neighbor was an executive with McDonald's, and actually he became the CEO of McDonald's, and so
No
he was
way.
an idol for me, right? And so I
Holy
thought, oh
cow.
yeah, that's what I want to do. But after I got fired from my first job, I realized that maybe this isn't going to be the path for me.
So how did that moment of being let go from your job lead you to into exploring what it means to live a bold life?
Oh, it took some time because I was 22. It was my first job out of college. So I was disillusioned because I was doing the best job that I thought I could, and I wasn't being treated fairly. And so there was a sting there, but I continued in
Mm.
corporate. I went on and got my MBA, and it was years in the making to find my courage to kind of say, this corporate thing is no longer for me, and I have to explore a different path. So I think it did in the long run, but it took a while for that to take root.
How do you, before we talk about finding the courage to move on from corporate, how do you even envision a life for yourself beyond corporate? Because from the time you were a little kid, you had wanted to to be in corporate. Like, how do you look outside those parameters of thinking?
It's I think it's was a series of jobs, holding a series of jobs that were okay, that paid well, that I could do well, but that I wasn't happy at. A series of jobs that I got laid off from or fired from. And so the repetition of the experience and waking up, one day after my father died and realizing I feel like I'm just going through the motions in life. This doesn't feel like what I'm supposed to be doing, even though, it's comfortable financially, even though it's what, I'm living the life that I was told would bring me happiness. And so it was then really the death of my father that caused me to say, hey, do you want to, die having just done this thing that doesn't feel very satisfying? And that was when I started doing some inner work to kind of figure out, what I wanted and what might make me happy. Um, and the rest is history.
Well, so so you got this inkling that you wanted something different out of life. Then what did your path of doing inner work look like?
Well, I realized that I was really not giving myself um, all that I could in terms of the work I was doing at work. I was going in and I was doing my job, but I was capable of doing more, giving 100%. And I wasn't doing that. And so what that looked like was going into a job I didn't like and giving it 100%. And that really changed how I saw myself. Even though I didn't like the job, I could respect myself. I could look myself in the mirror and saying, I'm doing the best I can. And it feels good. And so that helped to start to change the way I saw myself and identified. And in doing that, that caused me to say, oh, well, I'm throwing myself into this work that I really don't like. What could I throw myself into that I do? And so I started pursuing hobbies. Right, I took up karate. I
Mm.
um, I went to Weight Watchers. I lost 75 pounds. I started talking to people who weren't necessarily that friendly at work. And in that way, I just kind of, I grew personally, and that helped me feel good about myself. And I think that that was a huge part of growing bold.
This is such an important part of your journey, and so inspiring and interesting. Your first step was not like realizing I hate this job, so hey boss, here's my 2 weeks. Bye. Your first step was saying, hey, I'm not giving this 100%, and I'm going to give it 100%.
Yeah. And so it's so counterintuitive, right? You hate a
Mm.
job and you don't feel like you're being respected. And what are you going to do? You're going to show up more? Doesn't make sense, but it really, it really makes a difference.
This is just a side tangent, but I mean, it's a major story, but just aside in terms of what we're talking about. But what is it like to do the consistent work of losing 75 pounds?
Well, what is it like to do the consistent work? Do you mean in
Yeah.
terms of,
Um, like how do you begin doing that type of intense work? Because I ask because so many of us dream of losing the pounds, but then encounter resistance and say I'm not going to do that. But you
yeah,
did that.
yeah, I did it. I did it. And that again was, that started from a place that might not necessarily make sense. I think a lot of people may start to lose weight or want to lose weight because they just want to look better. I was at a point in my life where I felt like I had no control over my life. I was
Mm,
I was working a contract project management job for a really good company, and I was being paid really well, but I was being given administrative project coordinator work. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted more responsibility. I was going through the middle of a messy divorce.
mm,
There were so many things that I felt like were spiraling out of control in my life. And I was like, I just
mm,
want to have some semblance of control in my life. And I remembered that 10 or 12 years earlier, I'd lost 50 pounds on Weight Watchers, but put it all back on. But I
mm,
remember also feeling like I was in control because I could be in control of what I put into my mouth. And so the motivation to lose weight was really to have some semblance of control, and not eating those fatty foods was a challenge, but I had to remind myself of why I was doing that. And that really goes back to the first catalyst for cultivating courage that I speak about in my book, Growing Bold. And that is to set a goal that's tied to a core value. And that each time you come up against a struggle, or I really want that piece of chocolate cake, remind yourself of, well, but that's not going to help you to support that core value, that goal that you set for yourself.
So setting a meaningful goal really helps a person stay on the path instead of wandering off the path.
Yes, and I think that, yes, and I think that setting that meaningful goal, that the goal that's based on that core value, really helps you to understand that why you're doing it, and that you're doing it for you. You're not doing it because, well, it's the popular thing to do, or
Mm,
somebody else thinks you should do it, but it's
mm.
something that is really important to you. And so then you can bring that back to the forefront of your mind each time you have a challenge, and that helps to move you forward.
Speaking of doing something for you, you didn't only quit your corporate job and like put out a shingle as a coach. You decided to make a move.
I did, and it was really I I left my job because I felt like well, I left my job because I knew that I needed to be in France.
Hmm.
And
So
I
you say you knew you needed to be in France. Say more about having that vision and that. Like I need to be in France.
yeah, it was, and I don't even know if it was a vision, it was intuition. I have not, many people have, since they were young, have a dream of living in a foreign country. That was
Mm-hmm.
not me. I was a homebody. I still am a homebody. I was so homesick when I went away to college. So the fact that I'm living in France is just really kind of amazing to me. But but I just got this feeling, this urge, this desire to live in a French speaking country, and France was calling, and it was just that intuition that says, yeah, you need to be there, you need to be there, you need to do what it takes to get there. And so that was the thing that led me to leave my job. Um, and then I really didn't know what I was going to do when I got here. I told everybody I was going to look for a job once I got here, but 3 months in, a former coworker asked me how my job search was going, and I had to tell her and admit to myself that I really didn't want to get another job,
Hmm.
which then meant that I would have to figure out this coaching practice. I'd gone through coach training a couple of years earlier, and so it's taken me a couple of years to kind of figure out, who I wanted to serve and get set up with a business here in France, all of that. But it's been good.
What would you say to someone who's going through multiple big changes in life at once, like you did? You quit your job and you moved to France. Like you didn't spread those changes out. You're just doing it.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone whose head's kind of spinning because they're going through a bunch of changes that either they picked or that were thrust upon them?
What I would say for somebody who has chosen to make big changes is to make sure that they have prepared mentally beforehand. I think that that is a huge reason that I have been able to sustain myself here for just about 4 years. And when I say prepare yourself mentally, is do that inner work to understand, what's important to you, to start to look at the world and kind of see things differently. You've always done something a certain way. You've always driven to work a certain way. Drive to work a different way.
Hmm.
Do things that are uncomfortable or out of your comfort zone before you tackle, a ton of huge changes all at once. So then you start to build your confidence in your ability to do that. And that's the second catalyst for cultivating courage, building self confidence. And it's doing small things that are things you've never done before. And looking back to, past accomplishments you didn't think you could do as a confidence anchor is what I call it. And
Oh,
then
a confidence angle.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And so then when you're doing this new thing you've never done before, you might have self-doubt about, you can say, yeah, well, I'm not sure that I can do this, but I wasn't sure I could do this thing before. And I did. So I'm going to try this, and remind yourself of that confidence anchor each time you have that self-doubt or that negative self-talk about it. And that propels you forward. So as yes, you're right. I did, do a couple of big things all at once, but it wasn't all of a sudden. I did the planning and I did the mental preparation in advance.
For someone considering moving abroad, like what is a brief outline of what type of things go into the planning process?
Well, so for me, I knew I wanted to move to France. So the first thing that someone needs to do is figure out where they want to go, and then I think that that's a
Yeah,
big
I
challenge.
suppose that would be important.
It is important, but you'd be surprised at the number of people I see on these expat Facebook groups who want to move abroad, but they aren't really sure or clear on where they want to move. That is, the first thing you need to do, so that you can then figure out, well, what's the visa process look like? Is this really going to be possible for me? Does this country, allow people to come in? But that's the first thing. But once you've got that down, once you realize, oh yeah, there could be a path for me to get to this country, might be challenging. The next thing is to figure out, well, how are you going to get there? What kind of visa are you going to get? Do you have enough savings to come on a visitor visa where you're not working? Or do you need to find a job and get a company to sponsor you? Or do you have a business that you could start or pursue in your new country, and then you could get a business visa? So there are different paths, but then first knowing the country, then kind of figuring out what visa path am I going to take. And then there's, of course, uh, other considerations about administrative stuff in your home country as well as in your new country. And a huge thing is downsizing and getting rid of stuff. Start early. It takes longer than you think.
Wow. And then I suppose there's a whole technical financial piece, like figuring out how to move your money from a banking institution in the United States to.
Yeah, and not have the fees and all of that. So it's, having an address in your home country so that you can still, have a bank account in your home country. There are so many logistical pieces. The work that I do really, with the women I help, is really about mindset and belief building, because a lot of times people want to do something, but they don't believe that they are capable of doing it. And so for me, it's about helping people get to the end of their lives not having regrets about what they wish they would have done but were too afraid to do it.
Wow, wow, wow! That's such a big deal to like help someone get on a path that they love and that they're passionate about, instead of
Yeah.
wandering around doing what they don't want to do.
And not believing in themselves, right? Because that's huge. Yeah. You know that.
So what would you tell someone who has belief in themselves, but keeps getting overwhelmed in the details of pursuing that dream, whether it's moving to a foreign country or writing a book
Mhm.
or whatever?
What I would say, somebody who's got the confidence, but they kind of lose traction because they feel overwhelmed.
Yeah,
The big,
lose traction's a great
yeah,
term for it. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
one of the things that I think is really helpful is to break down what you're doing, right?
Mm.
It seems like, writing a book is a big goal, moving to a foreign country is a big goal, but there are smaller pieces that you can break off, right? And focus on, prioritize, number one, what the tasks or the things that you need to do, and then focus. Don't do 10 things at once. If you need to do more than one thing at a time, do two, maybe three, so that you're not like, your head's not spinning and you're not all over the place. And I think that that is helpful. I think we sometimes feel like we have to do it all now. And that's not the case. If we prioritize, we can say, no, that's something that I can do next month or the month after. These two things are the things I really need to focus on now.
Well, that it's that's so important because it's easy just to just get overwhelmed and think, oh, that's not going to work for me. But I mean, really, when we break things down, we can do so much, huh?
Right. And the other piece of it is, I think, with the overwhelm is setting realistic expectations, right? Setting, if we put a goal of accomplishing something in 3 months, and it's a really big goal, we've never done it before, perhaps we need to give ourselves a little bit of a cushion, some room there, and say, oh,
Mm.
maybe this will take 6 months or maybe even 9 months, so that we give ourselves the time and the space to be able to prioritize and break things down and reduce the overwhelm.
That's such a good point because, like, your big goal was to move to France. Your big goal wasn't to get it done in a certain amount of time.
Well, it kind of was. I had initially I had wanted to. I started planning in earnest in January of 2017, and I had wanted to be here in France in October of 2017. And one of the requirements for the visa was to have a year lease, show that I had a place to stay for a year. And I
Wow.
found a place, but then that place fell through. The guy was selling the place, so that fell through. And that caused me to have to push back my timeline. And I decided, instead of just pushing it back a month or so, I said, well, I'm going to push it back till January of the following year, give myself some
Mm.
breathing room. And that was really good because, like I said earlier about getting rid of stuff, I had been getting rid of stuff for a long time, but 2 weeks before I left, I was like, I still got some stuff and I don't know what I'm going to do with this, and I got to get on a plane in 2 weeks. Uh,
So those two weeks were busy.
yes, because I think I left my job maybe maybe 2 weeks before I got on the plane and moved to France.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yes.
I saw this in one of your exceptional videos on Instagram, but you said once you finally did the math on work of downsizing those last 2 weeks of quitting your job and getting everything in order, you said once you finally landed, it was kind of almost a letdown.
Well, so yes, yes and no. So the first 2 weeks I got there were tremendous. I was on cloud nine. I couldn't believe that I had actually pulled it off, because
Mm.
because the reason I coach people who have self doubt or lack the confidence to do it is because I did, and I actually hired a coach. It was in week 3 where the self doubt came back. And so while it wasn't necessarily a letdown, I was still excited to be there. I started to doubt whether I had made the right decision, quitting my job, moving to a country where I didn't know anybody. How was I going to support myself beyond savings because I had come on a visitor visa, right? All of those things started to kind of well up in me. And I was petrified. I, but I also knew that, going back to that meaningful goal, I also knew that I wanted to experience France um, in a happy way. And this self doubt and this negativity would kind of derail that. And so I had to use some of the techniques I'd learned in coach training to kind of bring myself back to, no, Patricia, you're being irrational. This is good. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Remember what your intuition told you, all of that.
specifically, what technique do you helped you the most to kind of calm that self doubt and stay the course?
So definitely meditation, like taking the deep breaths to kind of
Mm,
like center myself. But the
mm,
other piece, the other thing that I did a lot in that first year, I still do it, is positive affirmations. And whenever I, was tell myself something negative, like, have you done the wrong thing? I would counter that with, this is your dream. You are living your dream, right? And
mm.
so just replacing that negative thought with that positive thought as soon as I caught myself having it, because sometimes, we can spiral down into those negative thoughts, and then we can get into a funk that is harder for us to climb out of. But, when we continue to counter those negative thoughts with positive thoughts or positive affirmations, then we can train ourselves to catch ourselves before we go down that hole, and we can lift ourselves up more easily and more quickly.
So you notice when a negative thought arises in your mind, and you counter it with a positive thought.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even necessarily that I recognize I'm having a negative thought. It's how I'm feeling, right? It's,
Mm,
the dread, or the fear, or something in the pit of my stomach. And that's
mm.
when then I go back to say, oh, what was I thinking? Oh, you were thinking this. Okay, I need to change that thought. So yeah.
Um. Oh. And this ties in perfectly here. Uh, nope. Nope. Where are you? Um. What the the third courage catalyst is what?
Shifting your perspective. Right. So
Mm.
yes. Thanks for the assist.
And I mean, I did that in the most awkward way possible, but I wanted you to talk about the third one, so I was determined to get it to you, even if it was awkward.
You're staying true to form. Awkward, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yes, so shifting perspective is the third catalyst for cultivating courage, and it is changing how you see a situation. Right? We can see a situation as doom and gloom, or we can
Mm.
see a situation as, okay, this isn't how I would have liked it to go, but where's the silver lining in that cloud? And shifting your perspective can also be changing your thought, right? When you change your thought, then you change how you feel, and that changes your perspective, how you see what is actually happening. So absolutely.
And these tools were so crucial to you because you could have said in that third week, you could have talked yourself into, oh, it's been fun to visit France for these 3 weeks. I'll have a good story to tell, but now I better get back. But get back and do what I know. But you were able to just keep focusing on hey, I am living my dream now. I'm taking steps and to stay the course.
Yeah, it was, I think that combination of the three catalysts for cultivating courage, right? My meaningful goal was to move to France, become fluent in French, write my second book. And going back after 3 weeks, that's not going to meet that goal, right? And so recognizing that, yeah, this feels really uncomfortable. This feels really scary. This feels very lonely. Yet those were real feelings, but I also had a strong desire to reach those goals that I had set for myself. So that helped to keep me saying, okay, this doesn't feel comfortable, this doesn't feel good, and I'm working on these goals. It also ties into the building your self confidence, because again, there was that self doubt was
Mm,
really the confidence, right? Can I really do this thing? Can I pull this
mm.
off? And that had me go back to things in my past that I wasn't so sure I could do. I'd failed a comprehensive economics exam in college, and I thought that my college career was over. And somebody told me, no, you know what? You can take that exam again. Just study harder and just pass it. And I was like, oh, okay. And so that's what I did. And I did. And I graduated from college. So looking back at those past things that I didn't think I could do, and as a confidence anchor, that helped me to say, oh, no,
Confidence
Patricia,
maker.
you can get through this too. And then the shifting perspective with the affirmations really helped to the get through those first 8 months, because it wasn't like, oh, it was just the third week I had these feelings. It was a consistent thing that kept coming back, and it haunted me, like in the middle of the night, waking up and thinking, oh, I'm all alone. What have you done, Patricia?
So you were using these tools intensely for 7.5 months,
Oh yeah,
uh,
yeah.
over half a year. I mean,
Oh yeah.
that's a long. This wasn't just like thinking your way out of it, and then the next day, I love my dear life. Yay!
Yeah, well, it's like anything that you do that is new or different, or big, right? You may you may do it, you may start to do it, but then that self-doubt comes back, and you can swat it down once, and then it comes back. It's kind of like whack-a-mole, right? Just yeah.
Bro. So what? Um. What would you say to a coaching client who's like you've gotten so far with them, they've moved to the new country of choice, and they've had those first few weeks of honeymoon, and they're like, Patricia, you're amazing. And then they get into that third week and they go, oh my gosh, Patricia, what have I done? Oh my, and they're kind of in that frantic place of like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I would first kind of figure out where that's coming from. What is the the thing that is causing the distress, right? Because a lot of times there is a success congruence I talk about in my program. And three things need to be in alignment at a high level, at a high degree, 90 or 100% for you to be successful in reaching your goal. And the first one is a belief that you can do the thing. The
Hmm.
second one is the desire to do all that it takes to achieve the goal. And the third thing is a belief that you deserve it, or deservability, right? And so I would kind of find out what was going on, what the thing was, at the root cause of those emotions, and then work from there, and have them talk through what's going on, have them shift their perspective, have them say, okay, this is what you're thinking, this is the thought that keeps coming up. What could you replace it with so that you have a better emotion, and then you aren't just curling up in a ball in your bed, that you're going out and you're meeting people, or whatever the result or the action would need to be.
It's so I mean, as you coach women on this, it's so valuable that you can empathize with them when they come with the week or whatever. Oh, I mean, you know those feelings, and then you also know that those feelings don't last forever.
Yeah, yeah. And that for me, the reason I started my program was it would have been really nice to have a program like that when I was going through what I was going through. And so, there's the preparation piece that I was fine doing on my own, but then there is the piece once I made the leap that it would have been nice to have somebody say, "Oh no, Patricia, you're good, right? Keep doing what you're doing, keep doing your affirmations or whatever," and have that encouragement and not feel so alone or so isolated.
Yeah. You kind of paved the way and learn the things yourself, so now you can
Mm.
help other people.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
thank you.
And something we haven't talked about yet at all, but it's not like you went to Australia or England where you would have known the language. You went to a country. Had you had much experience with French before you went?
Yeah, so I took French in high school and in college, but I really had to start learning it from scratch because I really took it just for the grade, right? It was
Yeah.
required. I took it for the grade. I passed the test, but I couldn't speak, read, or write it. And I didn't believe. Here's another situation where I didn't believe that I could, because my brother, who is 5 years older than I am, he was a language genius. He majored in comparative literature between French and German, and
He
right and
majored in comparative literature between French and German.
Right. And my mom always would say, "Oh, your brother, he's so gifted with languages." And I read that to mean, "Oh, don't even try learning a new language." But for me, part of that drive and that intuition that says you need to be in a French speaking country was how beautiful the French language sounds to me. And I wanted to sound like that. And so that was a motivating factor for me. Something that helped me to do my lesson every day on my morning walk and move to a country that doesn't speak English, right? That was the motivation, and then put myself in situations where I am around French speaking people, not only English speaking expats.
Because is it true you could have gone and just basically hung out with people who spoke English?
Yes, and I think in my village there are not a lot of Americans, but there are a lot of British people, right? And so it could be easy to, find a little clique and just kind of stay with them. I'm also, like I said, I'm a homebody. So I stay home a lot, right? So it, I could just stay home and Zoom with my friends back in the United States. But for me, the goal was to become fluent in French. And it took a long time. I started relearning French probably I started taking trips to Quebec City, Canada in 2014. So I wanted to speak French when
Mm.
I went up there. So that was 2014. And so I was doing this language program on my own, 30 minutes a day since then. And then when I got to France, I did take a proper French class because I didn't really know why I was saying things the way I was saying. I didn't know the grammatical reasons behind it, and so that was a really good introduction or reintroduction for me as well.
How important was your French class, your proper French class, to helping you build community?
It was huge because I had initially my landlady had suggested that I go to the language school that was at the end of the street. And for me, I was over school, a classroom setting. I was like, I don't really want to do that. Nah, I'm good. I've got a good base of the language. But I recognized, just through my activities, going to the store and what have you, that I had a long way to go. And so I did sign up, and it was good to help me build community because there were, 8 other people in the class, and they were all foreigners. There were a couple of Americans, somebody from Spain, just from all different
Mm.
places. And
Mm.
so I got the opportunity to meet people from all over the place. And I actually, connected with somebody pretty well. And that first year, we bonded, and we would, after class, we'd go out and have drinks, and we'd start to practice French. And then we were so tired, we'd fall into English. But it was really good in helping me meet people.
So, so this all segues into what is it to you to be a courage, to not only display courage in your own life, like like quitting a job, changing countries, starting a new career. That's displaying and exuding courage, but what is it to be a courage catalyst?
Well, so yes, it feels really good to know that I have done things that are bold and that require courage, and that helps to push me on to say, okay, well, what's next? So that's a motivator for me to continue to grow personally. But to be what I call a courage catalyst, it feels really good when people look at me and say, "Oh, look what she did. I want to do something similar." Or maybe I don't want to move abroad, but I have this big goal, and she had this big goal, and I see some similarities in her story. Perhaps I can do this too. I can do what I want to do too. And it's so rewarding, because once again, one of my, I guess it's my mission, is to, help people, do the things that they want to do, so that they don't get to the end of their lives having regret about what they wish they had done but were too afraid to do. So it's just really, really fulfilling to be to to help people to take steps, small steps, big steps, toward their dreams.
Wow. What would you say to someone who's been listening and and maybe through your conversation they've they've remembered the big dream or several big dreams, but now as we talk on that they're starting to remember all the reasons they can't do that thing they want to do, like, oh, I have kids, or there's not enough money, or the myriad of excuses that we humans tell ourselves.
Mhm.
What would you say to them?
One of my favorite quotes is, "Don't let what you can't do interfere with what you can do."
Don't let what you can't do interfere with what you can do.
And so there are situations in our lives that may appear to be hindrances, but what can you do toward that dream, right? You have
Mm,
kids, but okay, so what? You want to do this thing over here. Can you carve out some time to start pursuing that? Or
mm.
maybe your kids can help you to pursue it, get them involved. So, think outside the box, shift your perspective about the thing that you think is a hindrance and how that might help you.
So I mean that brings to mind brings to my mind. Of course, for so much of my life, I thought my voice would be a hindrance, would cripple me, but really it was the perspective that my voice would cripple me that was crippling me, not the actual thing.
Yes. And, right. And now you're using that to your advantage, right?
Yeah, I'm using it as a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's exactly that.
And I mean, Willie, you're kind of doing the same thing as a coach. You're coaching people now on the thing that you once struggled to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's, yeah.
so like at 3 weeks, if I had told you, hey Patricia, you're going to figure this all out, it's going to be fine, and you're actually going to make a living coaching on it. Would you have been open to that, or would you have said, hey, Jason Cuckoo, Jason Cuckoo?
Yeah. Well, yes. And I think that that is why it had taken me so long to find this niche, right? I I realized early on that I was going to have to start a coaching business. And I kind of toyed with the idea of helping women in corporate who felt disrespected or not appreciated, because that was my story. And I spoke to a couple of women about that, and it just didn't feel right because I was out of corporate and that was no longer my thing.
Mm.
And I had a feeling that I wanted to help women move abroad, but I didn't feel like I had enough experience to do it. So at 3 months in, yeah, I would have said, you're cuckoo.
Mm-hmm. My friend Dale says, do you want to read it?
I see it. Yes. Did I go to Notre Dame before the fire? I no, I did not. There's a back room called the gallery where they have the biblical items such as the crown of thorns, uh, wood from the cross, also part of Moses' staff. Many wow items. No, I did not make it before the fire,
Mhm.
unfortunately. But that's really interesting to know. Thanks, Daryl.
And that brings up a question. Have you traveled much throughout Europe since you've lived there?
Yeah, my first year here, I was staying in a vacation rental by owner, and I rented it out for the whole year. But there were 2 weeks that it was had already been rented, so I had to find another place. And I decided, well, I'm in Europe, why not country hop? So I,
Shocked.
right?
I can't be in my apartment. I might as well go. All right, well, that sounds really tough. I'm sorry for you.
Yes, I went to London, to Berlin, to Amsterdam. I'm I'm 20 minutes from the border of Spain. I haven't been over there much because of the pandemic, but I've been to Barcelona a couple of times, and I'll be going actually to Norway for Christmas. So
Mm.
next week I'll be flying.
Oh, Norwegian Christmas is such a good. I've been there for Christmas. It's
Oh, you have?
wonderful. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
okay.
It's
I'm a
so
little bit.
fun.
Well, you're from South Dakota. I'm a little bit wary about the temperature, but I guess I'll deal with it.
Yeah, yeah. Have you been to Andorra?
Yes, yes. It's about a 3 hour car ride, and I've been there twice, and it's so beautiful.
Oh,
The mountains, the pine trees. It's just, and it's the air is so fresh. It's yeah, beautiful.
those tiny countries have always fascinated me.
Yeah,
Cool. I'm glad you've been there.
yeah.
So,
It's because it's so close, right?
mm, just a hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah. Although the roads to get there are like this.
So speaking of laughter, and speaking of courage, and so bringing courage and laughter together, how did you discover laughter yoga?
So, laughter yoga was something that I learned about and started doing my third or fourth week here in France.
Yeah,
And
third or fourth week. Wow.
yes, there was, because I wanted to get out, I wanted to meet people, and there is an application here similar to Meetup, and this laughter yoga class was posted, and I'm like, "What's laughter yoga? That sounds kind of interesting." And so I went. I went. It wasn't in the center of town. I had to find this place, and I went, and it was this really weird experience. It's a weird experience, even if you do it in your native tongue, right? It's just kind of like people laughing at each other, looking at each other in their eyes, you know, just it's just a weird experience. But then to go through it in French, and I'm understanding most of it, but there's some I don't understand, and it's like, okay. But at the
Wow.
end, I felt so relaxed, so felt so good that I went back
Mm.
again and again. And then my laughter yoga facilitator, September of that year, my first year here, she decided she was going to teach it and to help others to become instructors or
Wow.
facilitators. And I thought, you know what? I don't know if I'll ever use this, but I think this will be fun. And so I did. and
Wow.
since since I haven't really used it, but during the pandemic, I was in the United States and I was feeling really stressed. So at noon every day, a handful of my friends got together on Zoom, and I
Mm.
ran a 10-minute laughter yoga session. And every week now, I still do it with those handful of friends. So yeah.
Oh wow. Wow.
Mhm.
And how neat to do it just for 10 minutes like that. That would be plenty to recharge the day. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, yeah. Because that's, 10 minutes they say, well, is like, 20 minutes on a rowing machine, right? It's just
Mm.
great, great activity.
So quickly, what would you tell someone who's hearing you talk about laughter yoga and going, I'm kind of curious, but I don't know.
So here's something that you can do to help to build, do your inner work, right? This is something that would push you out of your comfort zone.
Mm.
And there are so
Mm.
many health benefits that
Mm.
try it. And I would say not only try it once, try it a couple of times, because the first
Mm.
time is just the first time. And you might say, oh, that was really weird. You go back a second time and you might start to get addicted. That's what I would
Mm. Mm.
say.
Nice,
What would you
nice,
say, right?
nice, nice. One thing I talk about in my business a lot is the power of doing our imperfect best, and to me that means like having a vision like you're talking about of the best we want and going towards it. But when imperfections come up, learning from them and using them as catalysts to go forward instead of stopping or retreating. What does doing your imperfect best mean to you?
Yeah, it means doing something that you may not know how to do or may not know how to do well, and being able to look at yourself and laugh at yourself as you're going
Mm,
through it, right?
mm,
Not take yourself too seriously,
mm.
not rake yourself over the coals, not you beat yourself up, but it's like actually doing the thing that scares you or that you're not sure you're going to do well is success in itself.
Oh, that's great. That's so great. I'm glad I asked. That was exceptional. Nope, don't want to go there. So how like if someone's listening and like they they like I need to talk to Patricia. I need to know more about Patricia. How do they get a hold of you?
So they can reach me on Facebook or on Instagram at The Courage Catalyst. Also, Patricia at thecouragecatalyst.com is my email address. And I do have my first book. I have a free chapter of that book. It's called Growing Bold. And that will help you to, if you're not really sure what you want to do, your dreams have been muddied over, you can download a free chapter that will help you to set that up. And you can get that at thecouragecatalyst.com /GB excerpt, GBEXCERPT.
How do you spell catalyst?
CATALYST.
Oh
Didn't know
yeah.
it's going to be a spelling bee.
Mm. Yeah, I was missing that second A. So is this right? Is this your email?
Um, you've got an I where there should be a T and there's no S. So Catallyst.
Okay, take two. See, so there's a T on the end, catalyst,
Yeah, T
and
at
then
the end, right?
there's no no.
No S.
Speaking
Yes.
speaking of imperfect past, this is very imperfect past right now.
Yeah.
So is that
Oh
it?
no. so so, so Ly and then ST. No I.
Okay, God,
Love it.
you don't like my extra letters.
No, yeah, I love it because it makes me laugh.
It's really fun. Okay,
Let's
so
see. Let's see it now.
so how about that?
Yeah,
Yay!
very
Well,
good, very good, very good. Yay!
very good, very good, very good. Yay! So talking with you is just so deeply in, inspirational because I mean you just exude the I can do it energy, and you've gotten me thinking in the I can do it paradigm, and I imagine you're going to get a lot of people thinking that way. So thank you so much, Patricia.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Have a good rest of your evening.
Okay, I will. You take care.
Take care. Great to see you. Oh my gosh, I love doing this podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. And I mean, just like the guest I have, a brilliant like Patricia has so much to say about moving forward in your life towards whatever you want to do, and then also know that you have a profound degree of wisdom within yourself. Like if I had you on, you would have wisdom to share and stories that would inspire other people. And you might be saying, no, 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 not me, Jason, but you do. So thanks for tuning in and be confident in your brilliance.